All right, let's talk about pound for pound. Canelo Alvarez and Terence Bud Crawford. As you guys know right now, Terence Bud Crawford is undoubtedly pound for pound number one. I'm on Twitter. I see a lot of people saying a lot of things, and they say that I like Bud, but I just don't see with Canelo's body of work how anybody could have Terence Bud Crawford over Canelo and all this other stuff and stuff like that. And, you know, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I have $1 million question for you guys that say that. Okay? Where was that kind of energy when Lomachenko was number one pound for pound? I'm just asking a blatant question. How come nobody cares that Canelo Alvarez wasn't even on the pound for pound list when Vasily Lomachenko was quote unquote the number one pound for pound? None of you cared about Canelo. None of you cared where he was ranked. None of you were saying how Canelo was so much better than Vasily Lomachenko, how Canelo's resume is so much denser than Vasily Lomachenko. And this is why this shit is funny. Because Vasily Lomachenko hasn't achieved or done more than Terence Bud Crawford. They was giving Vasily Lomachenko credit for shit that he hasn't even done yet, and putting Crawford at number two for doing what they're giving props for Lomachenko attempting to do but have not achieved yet. So my question is, when Lomachenko was pound for pound number one, where was all these people who feel so passionate about Canelo and him being pound for pound number one? How come you guys didn't send out all these tweets then? Where was your videos then? Where was your crying? Where was your complaining then? Where was your talking about unfairness then? Because if you go back and backtrack and date my videos, that's one thing I love about having some shit recorded, because it's etched in time. I said, if you are not going to make Canelo out, this is what I said verbatim. If you are not going to make Canelo Alvarez pound for pound number one, then the pound for pound number one fighter is Terence Bud Crawford. Somebody who's been on my channel for a while, tell these fools that that shit is accurate. Matter of fact, go direct them to the video. Please, go direct these guys to the video. I was the only one saying, while everybody was talking about Lomachenko pound for pound number one, I was the end. Once again, if you don't believe me, if you think I'm just pulling my own chain, go back and track me. Go back and do your homework. I was the first one saying there's no fucking way Lomachenko or Terence Crawford or any of these guys could be pound for pound number one, okay? Because Canelo Alvarez has done too much in the sport. That's when I started saying, if you're not going to make Canelo Alvarez pound for pound number one, because he should have been pound for pound number one when Lomachenko was pound for pound number one. I said if you wasn't going to make him number one, then Terence Crawford is number one. Teofimo Lopez knocks Lomachenko out that spot. Now you can't deny Bud. Bud can't stay in there for 3 months without, oh my God, it needs to be Canelo. Once again, boxing world, where was your energy when fake ass, false ass, babied ass, coddled ass Lomachenko was number one? He didn't fucking deserve it. He was never number one. So how come y'all wasn't fighting for Canelo? You know who brung up Canelo? Me. The main motherfucker that y'all say hates Canelo. I was the main one saying he's pound for pound number one. Once again, if you don't believe me, go back and check my track record. Go back and check my work. Ask somebody who's been on my channel for a while. I've been advocating that Canelo Alvarez was number one. So now that Lomachenko's not holding the spot, now y'all trying as hard as y'all can to get Lomachenko number one? Like I said, man, this is a biased, racist ass, fucking ass sport. You can't say it's not. The point is, you guys should have been fighting for Canelo when you had Lomachenko in that number 1 spot because he didn't fucking deserve it over Bud and he didn't deserve it over fucking Canelo. Okay? I've always been down with Canelo being pound for pound fucking number 1. But let's talk about pound for pound. All right? I'm going to speak about how I judge pound for pound. Number 1, you guys got to figure this out. Pound for pound is not based on resume. It's obviously not based on resume. If it's based on resume, then number 1, how come Errol Spence is number 1, not even considered pound for pound number 1? And then on top of that, how come he's not above Bud? Because y'all claim that Errol Spence's resume is so much better than Bud Crawford. He got this person, he got this person, he got that person. Then how come he's not higher than Bud? Okay? It's obviously not based on resume, because if it's based on resume, then how the fuck was Lomachenko number 1 and not Canelo? But even worse than that, it's obviously not based on resume and accomplishments, because if anything, Pacquiao would be over Canelo. So it'd be Pacquiao number 1, all right, then Canelo number 2 to start. So it's obvious pound for pound is not based off resume. It's obvious, okay? And this is the problem with pound for pound. They will not give it a definitive criteria. Therefore, people will always be arguing. They need to give pound for pound a definitive criteria. If you don't, then we'll always be arguing. But I'm going to give you the basis, the ground root of what pound for pound is. Pound for pound is simply this. If all these fighters were in the same weight class, who would win? That's really what pound for pound should be defined by, because that's what it means. Who is the best fighter? Regardless of weight. If you put them in this weight class, they'll be dominant. If you put them in this weight class, they'll be dominant. A pound for pound fighter is somebody who got a style that can sustain going up and down in weight. Pound for pound is about who is physically the best fighter. Terence Crawford was always pound for pound number 1 for me, because I know if him and Lomachenko got into a ring, Lomachenko would lose. Terence Crawford is pound for pound over Errol Spence, because I know if him and Errol Spence get into a ring, he would lose. Okay? If Canelo Alvarez, all right, and Terence Crawford was the same weight, the same everything, I'm going with Terence Bud Crawford. Period. Not saying it's a definite that Canelo would lose. I'm saying I'm going with Bud Crawford. That's what pound for pound is. If these guys was in the same weight class and you put them in a fight, who would win? That's the best criteria I can give you for pound, because that's what it should be based off of. But given who they had at number 1 before Canelo, it's obvious that the pound for pound is not based on resume. So once again, your claim of trying to give Canelo number 1 because of his resume don't make sense, because Vasily Lomachenko was number 1 before him, and he ain't accomplished more than Bud or Canelo. So obviously, when they're doing pound for pound, resume is obviously, blatantly not one of them. Very simple to figure out. All right? And most importantly, why wasn't y'all advocating, campaigning, and cheerleading for Canelo when Vasily Lomachenko was pound for pound number 1? I was, and I'm what you call the Canelo hater, right? How come I'm the only one that thought of Canelo while Lomachenko was pound for pound number 1? The only time y'all think of Canelo is when Terence Bud Crawford is number 1. Now you make the connection and you tell me why that is. Exactly. Y'all know what time it is. People just try to throw me off my square. But shit, I'm on point like Stacey Adams when it comes to this shit. The bottom line is, when that spot was filled up with a Ukrainian, nobody in America had a problem with it. Until that spot was filled with a black American, Then, no, recognize Canelo. I was recognizing Canelo while y'all was saying this bum-ass Ukrainian was number one. Holla at me.